Bloodgood family, good to see you today, and thank you so much for joining me today. Man, we've got a great show today. Paul Roraback is here with us. Excited to talk to Paul, and Paul has been with just a whole lot of groups. Grammatrain, one of the greatest bands of the past, and of course Bloodgood, One Bad Pig. He gets around, and today from Trytan, we're going to be talking to Paul in just a few minutes. And my good friend Jim will be here with us in just a few minutes as well. Jim Laverde, who's been playing with Trytan, and they'll have a lot of things to share together as well. So, folks, it's a great day. I'm sitting here drinking a little bit of Headbangers Brew, and I'm drinking some pumpkin spice. We have it back in. It is so good. And it's called Not Another Pumpkin Spice, but yes, it is. And it's the best pumpkin spice. You can get that along with 9 other blends at the sanctuaryinternational.com/merch or wearemetalwearefamily.com. So, folks, again, thank you. If you're just joining me, would you sign in and let us know where you're watching from? Always good to know where people are joining us from. All over the world, we've got great friends. Stephen is here from Oklahoma. Good to see you. Our good friends in Oklahoma. We've got such great friends there, and good people. Robert is here. Robert says he's watching from Minnesota. Good morning to my Sanctuary Immortal family. There you go. And we saw Robert at Immortal Fest this last summer. I guess summer's almost over now, isn't it? Things are getting a little cooler outside, and it feels really nice. AV, good to see you again today. Good morning. How are you? Doing well, thank you. Happy 4 years of Fit for a King, The Path. Awesome. So, Fit for a King. Great band. And folks, once again, if you're just joining me, would you sign in? Barry Morrison. By the way, it's Barry's birthday. Happy birthday. Happy 50th birthday, Barry. He's a good friend of the ministry, and so glad to have him around. And 50 years old today. Joel is here from Melbourne, Australia. And of course, yes, it's midnight there. And thank you for staying up with us, Joel. I appreciate that. And Albert is here. Good morning, Pastor Bob and Jim. On the road with British Columbia, Canada this morning. Wow. So you're a little distance from us, but must be, that's a beautiful area. Beautiful area. I'm sure you're enjoying the scenery, Albert, and good to have you here with us today. Folks, let us know where you're watching from. I appreciate that. Andreas is here from, he says, I love Grammatrain. I'm a huge fan of how Paul plays the drums from Costa Rica. Good friend from Costa Rica. And folks, yes, we're excited to have Paul here. And he is honestly one of the best drummers around. He's amazing. And Rodney Jeffrey, another good friend from Australia. Great guy, and thank you for joining us, Rodney. Good to see you again today. Folks, again, thank you for joining us. Mary Bonderoff, my good friend from Whittier, California. Friends for 40 years, Mary, I think. Yeah. So good to have you here with us once again. Folks, I want to introduce my co-host today. Jim Laverde is here with me. Jim, there he is.
Hey, Pastor Bob.
The man, just the legend.
Yeah, well, the myth. I really do exist. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
It's because they call you Mr. Laverde, right?
Yeah, Mr. Laverde. Yeah.
So
yeah,
good, Jim. You have your Barren Cross guitar, right? Besides,
I do. It's my Barren Cross bass. And yes. I just had to put it up there for just to remind myself.
For posterity.
Yeah. You know, it's a little shameless plug.
But Tim, you've had that guitar for decades.
Mm-hmm. Bob, it's a bass. It's a bass, Bob. Big difference. I've had this bass for, I want to say, probably for 35 years. And be honest with you, I recorded Rattle Your Cage with that bass, and it's just a simple. Just a simple instrument. It's a 5-string. And this thing, every time that I plug that thing in to the soundboard, just going straight in, the engineers and producers are like, "Where'd you get that thing?" It sounds really, really good. Play it for all the Nash jams, and but yeah, it's good. It's like butter. It's really smooth. Yeah, it's really smooth, and it sounds good. I don't know what all these buttons do, but it just sounds good.
But it looks good. Jim, right behind you is our new addition to the Sanctuary storehouse and to our worship team. We have a brand new, what do you call it? Drum cage, drum enclosure, whatever it is. But it's loud drummers, you try to keep the noise down a little bit.
Yeah. So we encase the drummers and don't let them get out. And so,
exactly.
But yeah, it is. So Todd Bowe found this. I think he may have found it on Facebook Marketplace. We got it for a song. It is like, here, let's just go take a look. So, can you see it, Bob?
Yes.
It is a fortress, and it's got everything you could want in it. He's even got some fans in the back to keep the drummer, keep him cool while he's working.
Yeah.
Working back there. And we haven't tried it with the full band, but I know it's going to work because it's got a full ceiling on it. And so we're excited to start using it and decorating it. And
lighting it and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jim, the next time the worship band will be playing, actually, we'll be at our next gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Next gathering, by the way, is October 4th and 5th. And Jim, we've got a really special time that we're going to share together. And it says, join us as we expose the truth about human trafficking. We're going to get serious on this one. And of course, we've got our food, we've got our music, we've got our teaching, but we're going to have some special guests that come out of all of that and talk about exactly what's going on. Jim, there are 50 million people who are being trafficked around the world right now. And it's a huge problem, and it's what we're involved with here in Sanctuary. But
well, I would just say that it's easy to turn a blind eye to something like that, and because sometimes if you think that if you don't see it, it doesn't exist.
Yes,
but it does exist. It exists everywhere. Thailand, Ukraine, and it just and it's very prevalent in America. And you would be absolutely shocked. But we have teamed up with a ministry that goes and rescues girls out of this tragedy, this tragic lifestyle, and
children.
Yeah, children. Yes. Oh my goodness! And so I am so excited that we have teamed up with such a great ministry.
Yes.
And I just think that Sanctuary is entering into a new phase of ministry to help these people out and help them out of that life,
And Rescue One is the name of the ministry that we'll have with us. And we're going to have a few others outside of Rescue One too that will kind of come and tell their stories. But Rescue One, the ladies actually went with us to Immortal Fest.
Mm-hmm.
They set up right at the Sanctuary table, and so we had such a great time together. And,
it was great, and they came for our last gathering, and it was really fun getting to know them. So but
really good time.
Oh yeah,
we've got the gathering coming up, and of course weekly we've got our Sunday morning services. And
come out and join us on Sunday. We had a really great time this past Sunday. We had Uh, just it's always such a great time. I always enjoy Socratic discussion,
Yes.
and because you get to hear other people's take on the subject of Matthew 5, and but I think that it's church outside the box, really, and just to be able to hear, so Pastor Bob, just to let you guys know, Pastor Bob starts it off, leads the discussion for a few minutes, and then we all just jump in and talk about the various topics that we were discussing, and it's a really great way to do church.
Yeah.
And of course we have Headbangers Brew, and we have snacks, and and so
Yes.
hey, I just want to say at the last gathering, and I mean seriously, hand clap for Jamie McCavanaugh, man, making that
Yes.
incredible meal. Oh my gosh, I mean, I would come to Sanctuary just for the food.
He's
So,
good at it, isn't he?
oh, he's great, and what a wonderful servant, and he worked so hard. And man, just want to just tell him how much I love him and appreciate him, and
Yes.
so, but and it was also his birthday on Saturday, celebrated, and so big
So, Jim,
5-0, baby.
it's Barry Morrison's birthday today.
Oh well, happy birthday, Barry!
Yeah, Barry.
Woohoo!
We like him very, very much.
Yeah,
And
and how old are you? 23,
yeah,
24?
it's his 50th birthday today, Jim. It's a milestone. It's like
Yeah,
Jamie.
it is a milestone. It's not that bad.
Now,
My
Jim, do you remember way, way, way back when you turned 50? Is that a memory still, or
It
is
was
it
so far back. It was
I
so far
know,
back. I don't remember.
it's hard to remember that long.
So, well, and I remember my 40th and I remember my 30th. Those are all, major
Oh,
milestones. But,
and I,
when I think about 30, that was 30 years ago.
yeah,
I
wow.
like them apples. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Whew. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Do you
Yeah,
remember your 60th birthday, Bob?
I do. I remember my 60th and I remember my 70th. And, in just
Wow.
weeks, it's going to be 72.
Well, and that's what's funny, because let's talk about that for a minute, because that's really how the sanctuary gathering got started.
Yeah.
We were going to have a surprise birthday party for Bob, and I just was like, I am not going to be able to pull that off, because Bob's can sniff out a surprise.
I can.
And
Yes.
and so we just decided to have Bob's 70th birthday here. This room was packed wall to wall, inside, outside. We had some worship. We roasted, told Bob stories, and boy, it was amazing how many stories they have about you, Bob. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, the stories that I forgot, and the stories of people
Yeah.
are always like the finger,
Yes. Yes.
and but that's really how the gathering got started, because we had some worship, and we just had such a great family time. I had so many people that came up to me and were like, can we just get together again? And so we wound up getting together January 1st, and I didn't think anybody was going to show up for it, but we had a room full of people on New Year's Day, and it was a great time. And we've just continued on, and we're doing it every 3 months, and then they wanted it more, so we went to every month, and then we went Sundays every week, and that's how it's kind of all played out. And if it wasn't for your 70th party, Bob,
Yeah. I know. That's pretty amazing.
yeah, we wouldn't be having all these drums, the drum set and the PA system, and the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have come through those doors. And
Yes.
what a great opportunity to have spiritual family.
Well, it really has. And Jim, we've been concentrating on the international ministries for actually a couple decades now, and
Hmm.
I have been all over the world in the startups of many festivals and sanctuary groups. And how many times have you traveled with me, Jim? And
Well, I've been to Europe 30 times with you, and
yeah,
that's a lot. Over the course of 10 years, and we go in the spring and the summer. There was one summer where I went to Europe with you 4 times,
yeah,
and lived to tell about it. And so yeah, we went to Denmark. Baron Cross played in Norway, and then we did the one in England, in Birmingham, and then we did elements rock, and that's a lot of traveling back and forth over the pond.
It is.
But yeah, those were some really great times. So
I'll be speaking at Elements of Rock again this year, and also, well, it used to be called Bob Fest. It's called Dark to Light Festival, or Light the Darkness, or I can't remember exactly. And then we're doing Green Light District Festival.
oh, that's awesome. Is Andreas going to travel back to be a part of that?
No, I think Andreas is probably going to be living there then. So that'd
Oh,
be
he's moving back. I
it
love.
looks like that's a good possibility. So
Yeah,
yeah.
boy,
So Glenn
he is.
says milestones. What about gallstones? Yeah.
What about kidney stones? I've never had those, but I've had friends that have had them, and ooh, look
Yeah,
out.
we talk about those things the older we get too, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So Jim,
So,
next week we've got Scott Waters with us, good friend of the ministry for a lot of years. Scott Waters from No Life Till Metal. And Scott has done, he's not only been in Ultimatum, and he's done some stuff with, well, I believe Vengeance Rising, or not Vengeance Rising, but well, maybe. Do you remember? I can't remember if he substituted for Roger at some point, and then of course, yeah. But
I don't.
we've had him working with us for a long time, and of course, his artwork is on the outside of a whole lot of albums, and just a talented guy. But this week, Jim, we have a very special guest and a very good friend of yours as well. Paul Roraback is here with us, and he'll be on in just a few minutes. Jim, Paul has a long list of bands that he's been with. One Bad Pig, favorite of a whole lot of people that are watching right now. Of course, he played with Bloodgood for a bit. He's one of the guys that started Grammatrain, which is still one of my favorite bands. What a talented band, such great music. But
boy,
now he's doing Trytan, and you just did the festival with those guys.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't know what to expect. I mean, Larry called me back in January and asked me to do the gig, and I said, well, let me think about it. You make sure that I had the time space to be able to do it, and
Yeah.
and so I finally got back to him and was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to commit to it. And so we had a rehearsal back in June. He flew Paul and I out there, and we started rehearsing, and I was like, I didn't quite know what to expect, and then we flew out a week earlier before the festival, and we rehearsed. I immediately just was as soon as Paul sat on the drums, I was like, this guy's good. I better up my game. So I went back, start practicing so much, and just a talented, but he's multifaceted. He's not just a great drummer. He's a great bass player. He's a great guitar player. And you should hear this guy sing. It's outrageous. It made me really, really jealous and envious.
Yeah. And Jim, but you guys have also become good friends, haven't you?
Oh yeah. He's a wonderful, you know what? He's a great musician, but he's a better person. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. We, spent a lot of time talking and playing. Matter of fact, I put out a few videos with he and I, just doing bass and drums, and and so those videos are getting pretty good traction too. So, but yeah, just in every sense of the word, we've connected, and even after the show, there's been a lot of communication back and forth, and between he and Paul and he and Larry and I. And I really hope that there's some folks out there that'll have Trytan out to play. It was a good show, and as a person that's kind of coming to the table late in the game, with them, it was just really awesome. The Rush medley, all the special things that they implemented into the set. It was just an awesome time. So.
And you guys also had Crystal from our worship band.
Yeah. As soon as Crystal walked onto the stage, it was like transformation. And so she just did great. Sang the Revelation song, learned it, I want to say the day before or 2 days before or something like that, and just did every note perfect, verbatim. That's how good she is.
Amazing.
So
she is amazing.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard Trytan, you need to. Really, really great band.
Oh,
David
yeah.
White is here with us from Colorado. Says hello to you also, Jimbo.
Mm-hmm.
He said 3 degrees. That sounds good, actually. That's about my temperature there.
How cold is it?
53 degrees in Littleton.
Oh, 53.
Yeah.
I was going to say 3 degrees. No.
Yeah.
Can't be 3 degrees yet. So
well, we're still having hot weather here. It's going to be hot weather all week, but we're looking forward to it cooling down soon. We're ready for fall, aren't we?
Ready for fall. But when fall comes, I know that winter's coming. And I'm not a winter guy. I'm a summertime guy. I like being on the water. I like boating. I like to be on my bike, so it's like, and I'm so allergic to cold that I break out in a sweat when I get in the cold, cold sweat,
There you go.
Yeah. So,
well, Jim, we got Paul coming up, and stick with us.
Wait.
Jim and I will be right back, and we're going to have Paul join us, and great discussion coming up. Folks, we're going to be right back after this short break. Don't go anywhere. And we're back with our special guest today, Paul Roraback is here with us. And of course, Jim Laverde, my co-host. Good morning, Paul. Are you there?
Here I am. He's always trying to steal the show on these podcasts. I'll put him over there.
Out.
Goodness.
Get out. Get out. Out of here.
Paul,
Hi, Paul.
You on the show, and it was really great to see you at Immortal Fest as well. What a great time, wasn't it?
It really was. People have been asking how it went, and one of the first things I say is I came back a better person than I left.
Wow.
Just because of the people I was surrounded by, particularly Jim and Larry, but the festival too. I did not. I was told that there'd be a lot of love there, and but just over the years of touring in the Christian music industry, I've just seen so many attitudes that I just thought half of the people there would be arrogant and unfriendly. but pretty much everybody I talked to was very, very cool, very encouraging. Some of the guys that could tell that I struggle with, I've always struggled with some insecurities, and I tend to beat myself up. And they were just very encouraging. The guys that could pick up on that, and so yeah, I was surrounded with really great people.
Yeah, it really is. And the cool thing, Paul, is that these folks are really family.
Yeah.
We say all the time, we are metal, we are family, but man, you realize that we've been family for decades now. And I think, don't you think all of us are a little older and wiser, and we're realizing that we're not rock stars, that we're actually
Yeah.
family?
And we have something to be grateful for. And it seems like these are the guys that have stuck around. They've not recanted. They've not deconstructed. They've made it through all that. And we're older. We're wiser. We've had families. A lot of these guys have, like me in my later years, pursued a knowledge in theology and Christian history,
Yes.
just getting more serious about our faith, and just all of the challenges that have come up in my life in the last 20, 30 years have, especially these days, you're kind of in a position where you have to either stand strong in your faith or take a hike. There's not a lot of a lot of gray area. You're not really allowed to be in this gray area anymore. You're kind of
Yes.
being I don't know, forced isn't the right word, but we're kind of being called to take a stand. Like, who are you? Who are you going to stand for?
Yeah, absolutely. The psalmist David said, "The entrance of your word gives us light." And I think that you were just talking about studying more, getting to know the word more. Something happens, a transformation happens when that's part of your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that was a lot of my I've been exposed to so much garbage. When I was a kid, I was allowed to watch everything my parents were watching, and there was things stored in my closet that should not have been there. And so I've just have this lifetime of filth in my head. And these days my desire is just begging God, through his word and through my prayer time, just to give me a new heart and to renew my mind. And I want my instinct to be more about godly things and not about trashy worldly things.
Yes.
But there's so much of that in my head that it's taking decades to have that renewal, and it's an ongoing, lifelong journey for me.
Yeah, I love that. And that's Romans 12 too. It says that renewing our minds so that we're able to see clearly the path ahead, and that's man, that's important. Jim, you were able to get to know these guys pretty well, not only at the festival, but practicing and spending time together. This was a really good experience for you, wasn't it?
Oh, it was really great. And to be frank with you, I didn't know Larry all that well. I mean, I played on his last recording, and but so I always go into a music scenario with, okay, so I don't know these guys. I don't know where their hearts are. So a lot of times I just kind of sit back and watch, and what I saw was just two down to earth guys that seek after God with desperation, and I love that.
Yes.
And just the first time around when we rehearsed in June, we had a really good time together. We rehearsed for a few days, and then when I came back in August to rehearse with them, that's when I really started to get to know them, and the trip up to the festival. And then by the time we got to the festival at night, we were talking and laughing and cracking up about stuff. And one of the things that I really like about both these guys is that not only do they love the Lord with all their heart, they're phenomenal musicians, but they're just regular guys. And that's what I always gravitate towards, that these guys are down to earth. They struggle with the same things that I struggle with. they have victories. They talk about what's going on in their lives and their families, and I just, I can't say that I've enjoyed every musical situation I've been in, but I really, really enjoyed these guys, and it was a lot of fun, and I just hope that we get to do it again. So
It's a great picture right there too, isn't it?
yeah,
And these are Chad's pictures, Jim, aren't they?
Oh, you know what? He did a great job with these photos. He caught some great moments there, So hey, there's Paul rocking out.
That's me.
That's you. Look out. Don't fall off. Don't fall off. Yeah.
Pictures.
Yeah, he is really talented. It's hard to get good pictures of the drummer, and that guy, he got it. He got some great pictures.
He did. Yes.
Hey, so let me just say one more thing about Paul. So in our first rehearsal, I'm thinking, it's like, who did Larry get to play drums? Because I'm finicky. It's like I always want to play with a good drummer, bass player. And so Paul sits down and starts. First of all, he's adjusting all of his drums and his cymbals, and he's got this and he's got that, and his little clanker things up here. And he sits down and he says, "Okay, well, I've got to warm up for a few minutes." And so Larry and I go upstairs, and man, I hear him warming up, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's a monster!" And really, really, Paul, is just so great playing with you, brother. And
thank you.
You're off the chains. And I was just telling Bob that he's not just a great drummer, a great songwriter, great singer. He's a great bass player and guitar player. And you should seriously hear this guy's, his solo efforts are just phenomenal.
Oh, awesome.
He sends me this. He sends me this song he's working on, and I'm like, Does he realize how good this is? It's fantastic, So
that's
kudos
awesome.
to you, brother. Hats off.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, bro.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true.
And likewise, man. It's if someone had told me, when I was in late high school, that someday I was going to be in a band playing in Trytan with the bass player for Barren Cross, I wouldn't have believed them. I can't believe that the things that have come my way. But playing with you is definitely a highlight, man. And
me too.
You lived up to your reputation. Solid bass player, and just fun. And I was telling my wife this the other day. You're so great on stage. You have the perfect balance of just looking cool, walking around, connecting with the audience, coming in and checking on me once in a while, going and standing next to Larry. Just every picture of you looks good. You look like you're having a good time. And that helps me to have a good time and relax is seeing you in that state.
Okay, so I need to tell this little story. I just take a minute. So we're doing sound check, right? And Paul just pulls off this riff, doing all this stuff. And is it Michael Flanagan from White Cross was walking behind the drums, and right when you were doing this thing, he just stops and he just shakes his head like this. And I look back behind you, and because you stopped another drummer in his tracks, and then I got eye contact with him, and I was like, I saw you do that. I saw you stop. Yeah. So that was such a fun moment for me to see that. And, he was just honoring you, and he was like, wow, this guy's really off the chain's good. So
Michael's always been really nice to me. He doesn't remember this, but when I was touring with Bloodgood 92, 93, Dave McKay and I stayed up. We were playing with White Cross in Texas somewhere. And we stayed up and excuse me. We stayed up and chatted with Mike and the bass player. I can't remember his name. Scott, I believe was his name.
Was it Benny?
It wasn't Benny.
Okay.
But we stayed up way into the wee hours of the morning, and I really connected with Michael then. And then we just lost contact, because back then you had to keep in touch by snail mail. It was expensive to call long distance, back then.
Yeah.
In those
Right.
days, you had a dial like this. And so I was really happy to become friends with him later. And one of the things that made me really pursue him as a friend is when we all lost Kevin Whistler. Kevin and I had never met until the Bloodgood documentary came out, and we were at the red carpet showing in Hollywood. And so we sat next to each other and we really hit it off. And over the next months, years, we started talking more and more. And just before he passed, he had called me to ask me some questions about microphones, and he was putting the studio together. And he called for the purpose of talking about the tech, but we ended up talking for well over an hour, maybe two, just about theology and family and politics and all these things. And I was asking myself, why haven't I been in this guy's life all this time? We were both in Bloodgood. We have all the same friends. And then when he passed, it hit me really hard. Like I felt robbed. Like I was just becoming really good friends with him, and he left us. And that would hit me kind of hard. And I started thinking like, okay, so who do I keep saying I'm going to keep in touch with? And I don't, and so I'm trying to get better at keeping in touch with people. It's something I'm not very good at, because I'm a little, I don't like the introvert word. I don't think I'm introverted. I'm reclusive, but I just feel uncomfortable contacting people and acting like we're supposed to be friends. Like, what would they want with me? We played at a gig the other day. We're friends now, right? What's up?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think that, I think that's can be true about any relationship, but there are some relationships where you get in with people and you're just like for instance, like I got to know Benny, the bass player for White Cross this last time around, and Michael. And I was just like, why haven't they been in my life my whole life? And they are just gems of people. Benny and I mean, because he goes back so far, and, as far back as I do. And we started talking and sharing stories. And next thing you know, he and his wife were talking, we were all talking together. We were just laughing and crying, and the same thing with Michael, just wonderful, human beings, and they love the Lord, and they're just so easy to talk to, and and fun, and not, just not afraid to be themselves. That's what I like about it, is that I didn't feel that rock star thing from them. Like, oh, look at my drum set, look at my riffs and everything. And it's more like, this is what's going on in my life. Check out this funny story. And we were just sharing stories about stuff, and, but yeah, and that's one of the good things too, is that, Paul, I've been able to, communicate back and forth with you numerous times now over text and calling. And I just feel like as a friend, I was like, feel the same way. It's like, gosh, how come I just kind of like met you like 6 months ago, and but we got a lot of good days forward. So
yeah.
But
that's one of the first things I think I asked you is, how have our paths not crossed with all the things we've done? And we've just been passing each other,
And of course, I had to get your autograph because you're in that movie. In the Bloodgood movie.
Yeah, I'm a movie star now.
You are a movie star.
I'm a movie star now.
Yeah. So, and
I guess I gotta.
Oh, go ahead.
Go.
Oh no! And by the way, if you guys haven't seen that Bloodgood movie, that is a top-notch film, documentary on the band. I watched the whole thing, and I was just like, this is just as good, or if not better, than any of the documentaries I've ever seen. I mean, Muscle Shoals, 10 Feet from Fame, I mean, all that, the Eagles documentary. I mean, seriously, that it was just so well done. It was perfect. I loved it.
It was.
Yeah, you don't have to be a Bloodgood fan to like that documentary. It's just well done.
Oh no, it is pro.
Yeah.
It is pro, and it's funny, and it's serious, and It was really, really good. Hats off to the guys who made it.
You should see the stuff that didn't make the movie. I had Paul Bloodgood in tears when he was interviewing me in here. Well, we were both we were laughing so hard at
Oh
some
my
of the
God.
stuff that was going on.
And I was asking Les. I was like, hey Les, where did you guys find all that backstage footage and stuff like that? He goes on. He just kind of came out of the woodwork, man. It just, And I was like, man, because they had so many great, backstage things where you guys are goofing around and talking, and it was just so good. And I'm so glad that they were able to finish it up before Michael passed. And
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah,
That was another blow when we lost Michael. That goes to show. I think we were talking about this in the RV. You think, well, when I say you, me, it can be easy sometimes for me to think like, okay, what I'm doing for God seems really important to me, and surely I'm going to live many years because I'm doing all this important work for God. So I'm just so important, right? And it just goes to show, like, I mean, to me, it seems like Michael was doing something really important, and it didn't make sense to me that God would take him when he did. And it just goes to show that none of us are too important for God to call us home, and so not let that stuff go to our heads. And I wasn't being prideful about it, but there was like a genuine excitement with what I'm doing for God. And at my age, sometimes if I worry I'm going to have a heart attack or stroke, I think, well, I think God has more for me to do. I think I'll be all right, But you never know. You never know.
Hey, look, when I go out, I want to be playing Spirit or Radio.
Well, here you are. I guess it's time now because we did that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was I'm going to just say that I've been a big Rush fan for so many years. I love Geddy's playing, love Neil Peart, Alex Lifeson, and just to be able to honor, because we had a big picture of Neil Peart and back we were honoring him, and as a musician, but that was just like a dream come true, for me, and making it through those songs that I've listened to that, those videos that people sent out so many times, and I think that could have been the most fun musical experience I've ever had.
That was fun.
It's awesome. So you guys, you've both been involved with the metal scene, the Christian metal scene, for a whole lot of years, and the one thing that we all realized a long time ago is that our movement is not without flaws, not without challenges, not without rock stars as well. People that have other kinds of motives as well. And you both played, and Jim, you played mostly with Barren Cross, but you played with other bands too, and obviously Paul, you've been in a few bands. How do you feel like it's been navigating the Christian metal, and we'll call it ministry, but a Christian metal industry, and keeping your faith and keeping your focus when so many have not, and so many have kind of fallen off? Let's talk about that, because that's kind of the dark side of things. We talk about how great it is to see everybody again and bring the bands back and all of that, but there's an underbelly with this too, that I remember dark times with many bands, with many individuals in our movement. And why do you feel like, and Paul, let's start with you. Why do you feel like you're still standing after? I'm sure you've gone through the same thing with people. This hasn't been an easy ministry, and not an easy industry to be in.
Yeah, I would like to know statistically if the numbers are the same in and outside of the metal industry. Is it because of the metal industry, or is it just it's life? Some people are going to recant and deconstruct. Maybe it's just more shocking when it's somebody that was in a band doing ministry.
Yes.
I'm not a Calvinist, so I'm not going to say all these things are predetermined. That would be an easy answer.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't find Calvinism biblical, but Calvinists are still my brothers in Christ, and there's no animosity. I don't think there's any reason to have tension there, you know. But I, I mean, I guess I saw the same things that everyone else saw. To me, it's just, do you in your heart generally want a relationship with God, and are you attracted to these things? Because to me, I mean, nothing could have taken this away. When I was brought up in sort of a lukewarm Catholic environment, kind of thinking, you know, misunderstanding even Catholicism then, but thinking God was just there to crush me if I did something wrong. I know that's not Catholicism per se, but then I did at the time as a kid, and I'd go to church and didn't understand anything, and I was kind of freaked out by the images, to be honest. They made me uncomfortable. And but then in my teen years, we moved next to these people that had a relationship with Christ. They were Christians. They would tell me how God would speak to their heart, and I was like, God speaks to you? And they'd say, yeah. And I just wanted that. Like I always kind of knew who God was, but when I found out that this God that created the earth and created me isn't just there to crush me, and he's actually merciful, and I started comprehending grace, and, you know, through faith, and I really wanted that, even though it was still a long walk for me. I was a terrible Christian for years, decades, you know, but my heart, I still was seeking after God, even though I was still a mess. I still am to some extent, to a large extent. But my pursuit of God, I just feel like nothing could take that away. Nobody can take that from me, and so I don't understand. You know, seeing, I've been in two bands with pastors' kids that fronted these bands and had ministries that recanted their faith, and it was real hard to watch. It was real painful for me to see someone I care about so much, seeing someone that's family to me, just say things like, you know, who is God to tell me such and such, you know, or you know, you know, in one case it was a book one of them read, and this book just encouraged them to leave their faith. You know, I can't imagine reading some book that would convince me to leave my faith, especially with the time that I've put in trying to figure out, you know, about a decade ago, I wanted to know where this Bible came from. I didn't know there was a trail that went all the way back to the early church fathers. And I was a little afraid of what I was going to find when I started doing my research. And, you know, some of it's messy and scary, but there is a solid trail all the way back to the beginning. And I was so relieved to find out how accurate this book is. And all the people coming against it saying it's not accurate, or it's the telephone game or whatever, like, that's all not true. And so I perhaps it just comes down to your heart's desire, and those are the things that God looks for. He searches the earth to and fro to look for a heart that's truly His, you know, and he finds somebody like that, and I think God invests in somebody like that, and He's certainly been merciful to me. You know, I'm not a great, wonderful person. I have a lot of baggage. You know, we could talk about it, but God's been really merciful, and you know, when we were talking about renewing your heart and renewing your mind, He's done that for me. I'm really ashamed of the person I was, even during the days of Grammatrain. I was a Christian, but I feel like if I knew then what I knew now, I almost feel like I squandered those years, because I just wasn't quite as passionate about seeking the knowledge of God, and I felt like I was more of a facilitator of someone else's ministry, which kind of just doing my job. I'm a Christian, so I play Christian rock, and I'll play drums for Grammatrain, and Pete has a ministry, or Bloodgood has a ministry, and I'm like the secretary, kind of doing my part to help facilitate the church. Well, nowadays, you know, with the PJ Bostic material and where I'm at now, I've never felt so called to be doing what I'm doing. I feel like everything I've done in my entire life has led me to this.
Yeah, and it's amazing too, isn't it, how much we learn over the years and how many things occur to us in time. But I think that's so important. Paul, you've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people, and I think that the one thing my takeaway in working with so many people for this long has been that we've all grown spiritually together as well. Now, not everybody does, and some people drop out, but that's the one thing that you were just mentioning a little bit ago about Immortal Fest, that I think we've become more of a family. I think we've become more serious about our faith. I think people are digging in more and realizing a lot more. And in our older ages, and we are in our older ages, there is a little more of a desire to really dig into and to really know God, and not just perform for Him, but to have some intimacy with Him. Don't you think so, Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. I just go back to many, many years ago. I was at a party. I had so much to drink. I was with a girl I shouldn't have been with. I just so many things. And I remember I went and used the restroom. I looked up at the mirror, and the Lord spoke to me. This is way before Barren Cross, way before Sanctuary. And He said, I just felt like He pressed on me. He said, "What are you doing with your life? I've got something I want you to do." And I the adrenaline went through my heart. I got out of there, went home, repented before the Lord, and I just told the Lord, it's like I'm ready to do what you want me to do. It's almost, just like this incredible experience that I had with the Lord, and I knew that God wanted me to do something. And I met Mike Lee a very short time after that, and before you knew it, here I am. I didn't even know Christian heavy metal even existed, and and began playing concerts, and then people started getting saved, and and then the band went on to tour for years and making records, and we started Sanctuary. So that's what I think that that you feel that strong urge, that strong calling to not only hear the Lord, but obey His voice and say, okay, Lord, I'm going to give up all this to follow you, and has it been an easy road? Have Paul and I had an easy road? No. There's been a lot of times when I wanted to give up, but yet, the Lord has, been gracious to me and given me the strength to keep moving forward with ministry, because you honestly don't know what's around the corner. I did this, one of my Jim word for the day, where I talked about the Castaway, the movie The Castaway. At the end of the movie, he's like, his friend was saying, it's like, what made you keep going on? And he said, I didn't want to go on. I wanted to hang myself. I wanted to end my life. And he said, I just knew I needed to breathe each day. I knew the sun was going to come up. And he said that one day the tide brought me a sail. And so, sometimes, in life, we feel like, I can't do this anymore. And then God through the tide brings you a sail to get over the next, the waves that are coming in. And so, has it been a joyous, experience for me? Absolutely. Has it been full of trials and potholes and falling down on my face? Absolutely. But one of the things that I've noticed is about these guys that have been with us for so many years, like, Michael and Benny and Les Carlson and, all these guys that have been around for, there's something about them. They have intestinal fortitude to keep moving forward. They're not perfect. And let me just say that anybody that's in Christian metal isn't perfect, but they have the ability to hear the Lord, and say, yes, Lord, send me, I will go, and I will continue down this path. And I want to be a part of this until the day I die, until the Lord calls me home, because I know that there's a rich blessing for for when you hear the voice of the Lord and you actually move forward, and so yeah, and seriously, just like Paul said, I've known many musicians that got stars in their eyes back in the 80s, and they started in on this journey, and no longer walking with the Lord, and some of them are not only not walking with the Lord, but going absolutely polar opposite to what He calls us to do. And I've seen it many times, and it's kind of like the parable of the seeds. Some seeds fall on rocky ground, some fall on dry soil, but then some fall on fertile soil, and get planted and bear much fruit. And the best thing that I love hearing, and if you're listening to this podcast and you're one of these people, please send us messages. But you got saved at a Bloodgood concert, you got saved at a Bear Cross concert, a Guardian or Striper, and 20 years later you're pastoring a church. That's good fruit, and I love hearing those stories.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And there's a lot of those stories too, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
I think we have a tendency to sometimes concentrate on the people that have kind of fallen away, but they really are a very small percentage.
Yeah, very small, but they make a pretty big splash when it happens. So
yes.
But it's, and I still consider some of these guys prodigals. Maybe one day they're going to wake up and they're going to be in that, eating corn husks with swine, and they're going to say, and maybe they'll have that moment where they say, where they came, it says the prodigal said, in that story says that he came to his senses.
Yes.
And and sometimes we have that moment where we, come to our senses and we realize that, wait a minute, what am I doing? God's purposes and plans are so much better than winding up in a pen full of swine, so.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you guys, we've all been doing this for a while, and I get more and more excited about God moving within our metal family every single day. There is such revival going on with so many people in the Christian metal movement around the world. And I know that we're just getting started. Paul, we're just getting started. So hang on.
Yeah.
God's using us. Yes.
Yeah. And, the family thing is really important. I think you hit the nail on the head. There was 3 or 4 years of my life, about around 20 years, just before I started the PJ Bostic stuff, before I started my solo work. I started touring. I was Terry Bozzio's drum tech for a while, and I was touring with country bands, and I was Monty Montgomery's drummer for a while. I was getting paid very well and playing prestigious gigs. And I thought I could handle it, just being out there on my own. And my Christian walk just slowly, like the frog in a boiling pot of water. I know that's a myth, but it just took a dive. And I remember when it got to the point where I remember looking in the mirror and being ashamed of who I was looking at, and knowing that I call myself a Christian. I was the guy on the bus. The things would come out of my mouth, and someone would say, "Wow, that was from the Christian," and I was really ashamed of that, and I just saw my walk plummet. And that was when it's like I saw where I was going, and I just sort of flipped a switch. And I think that's when I started my ventures into, learning more about Christian theology and biblical history, Christian history, and that kind of a thing. And my wife and I both actually just went on this journey of, okay, like, are we going to do this or not? Are we going to be all in, or are we going to flail around? So we got serious, and but it was about the family, having a good church family. And there's no lone Christian. You got to be, as much as you might be against organized religion, a few people gathering in prayer, you've just organized a prayer. Okay, so organized religion it can be bad, but we need to be in fellowship. And it's not so much about what we receive when we go to church. It's finding somewhere where we have something to give, and what can we do for somebody else, or how can we encourage somebody, or how can we clean the floors, or play on the worship team, or greet people, or fill the coffee and the cookies, or whatever. We need to go there and be useful.
Yeah, and be part of the family.
Yeah.
And it really
And
comes
that's what keeps you
back
whole.
to family. Yes, it does. Well, you guys, this has been awesome spending time together. Our time is always too short, and Paul, love to have you back again. And next time, let's talk about your solo stuff because I think that will
Okay.
be a great topic, and we're excited to do that. So, folks, again, thank you for joining us. It's been great to have you here, Jim, Paul. Thank you guys so much for being on the show today. Folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.